In this video, we're going to explore some of the permissions of files, and we're also going to take a look at changing the permissions and the ownership of a file. So the first thing that I'll do is open up a terminal, and I've already created some files here on my desktop, and they're actually scripts. So the first thing that I'll do is I'll just navigate to those and take a look at what they are. So if you remember, I need to find out where I'm at. So the print working directory, pwd, tells me I'm at home, WA, and I am looking at the desktop here. So if I want to go backwards up the directory chain, I can do that, and that's going to put me at home. If I use the up key and enter again, that's going to move me a little further. And now if I do the print working directory, I'm at the /root level here, but I am not logged in as a root user. A very important difference between the two. You can see that I'm logged in as WA, and that is my Prime account. And if I were to change that to root, if you remember, you would see this turn to root, and you're also going to see this $sign turn into a hash. So there's what the hash looks like right there, and that would replace the $sign. So at this point, let's take a look at what is around me. So I know that to get back to the desktop, I'm going to have to go through Home, and then also I'm going to have to go through WA back to the actual desktop. So I can either do CD Home, enter, and then CD WA, and then CD Desktop, or I can just enter right into Home and CD all the way to them now that I know what the path is. So CD Home /WA /desktop, and that is case sensitive. So now you can see I moved into the desktop. See, it changes desktop right up here as well. Now let's look around us, LS, and we see Hello World, menu, nmap text, script text, and trouble.bash. So we're seeing all of these on the desktop, and that's exactly where we're at, in the desktop. Let's look at menu. Now we don't want to execute the file, we just want to look at it. So if you remember from other videos, we can cat information out, and that will show the information here in the terminal. So let's cat menu, and we can see what is in there. So I scroll up just a little bit, and this is where I entered the command. And so we start here with what they call the shebang, the whole shebang. So it's the hash, exclamation, /bin bash, and then we run through the actual script. Now what this script does, and we're not going to get too much into scripts today other than just looking at the information inside the file, but what this script does is when we execute this script, it is actually going to provide us a menu, and then depending on what we enter, a 1 or a 2, we're going to be able to take a look at some information. So if we use a 1, we'll see free disk space, and if we use a 2, we're going to display free memory. So I've just built a real quick menu script here to look at. So this is without executing it. Now if I take a look at the file itself and take a look at the permissions. So if you remember how to do that, we do an ls-la, and that's going to get everything. So all the files on the desktop, it's going to show the information. If we don't want the entire thing, then obviously we can pick out the one that we want to look at, and it will just display the single file. So in this case, we see that this is a file. It is not a directory. If it were a directory, it would have a D, just like these are directories here. And we see that the usage information for the owner, user, and the world is actually very open. So it looks like with this information, this file has the rights of 777. Now, if you're unfamiliar with what that means exactly, let's open a browser and you can go to my website at warrenalford.com. And if you scroll down to research and you look at the $ hash mark, that is Linux, there are some illustrations in here that show you what those are, along with the file structure and also the definitions. So if I open this up and take a look at it, we'll see that the first one, of course, notes if it is a directory or a file. The second one is read, write, and execute permission for the owner of the file. The next one is read, write, and execute permission for members of the group owning the particular file. And the last one is read, write, and execute permissions for all other users. So you can see in this case, all other users have R for read, but they do not have write or execute privileges. But if we look at the owner of the file, the owner does have read, write, and execute privileges. So that's how that works. You can take a look at that information at your leisure. It'll certainly help you a little bit when you're looking at the different levels that you could provide. So it looks like in this case everyone has read, write, and execute privileges on this file. Now this is really not safe. What I would like to do is I would like to lock this file down just a little bit. So there are a couple of things that I can do. Let's say that I want to change the privileges on that file. The command is chmod for that. And let's say that I want to just go with a 755. And let's do that for menu. Let's take a look at it and see what happens. So I'll go back to the menu and take a look. So now you can see, compared to what it was here, you can see that it has changed in the fact that we've taken away the right privileges for the groups and the entire world. The owner has remained the same. So it's a pretty fast way to change the permissions on a file. And this works the same way with a directory as well. The directory does have a little bit of a difference as to what the numbers stand for, but the theory and the syntax is pretty much the same. Now, let's say that we want to tighten this up a little bit more, okay? We still are allowing everyone in the world to execute this file. Well, I may want to take that down a little bit, so I'm just using the up arrow to bring up my last command, and I'm going to move over and I'm going to set this to 00, so I'm running a 700 permission, and let's see what that does for us. I'll go back and take a look now at the menu, and we can see that if I'm running a 700, it has taken away read, write, and execute privileges for this file. The only person that has it is the owner. That might not be the best thing to do. There may be users that do need to use the file, but at this point in time, unless they're the owner, they can't. Let's pull up that last input and let's go to a plus X and let's see what happens. So I'll enter and let's go back and take a look at the menu and see what happens. So in this case, what I have done is by using the plus and the X, I have granted execute privileges to these two, the group and the rest of the world. So that's not too bad. We can adjust that with read, we can adjust it with write, whatever we really want at that point in time. And so you can decide who looks at it, who can change it or alter it, and who can execute the file, and it's as simple as that. Now let's say that we want to change ownership. So right now we have the owner as me, WA, but I can change that. And let's say that I want to change that to maybe root. In doing that, I'm going to use the CHOWN, so the change ownership is what that stands for. And think about what I want to do. I want to change menu to root. So let's just put in root. And then let's put the file name. Let's see if that works. Changing ownership of menu, that operation is not permitted. So it's telling me that to change ownership on this file, I need to escalate my privilege. So do you remember how we escalate our privileges? Sudo, that brings us into the super user do. And then we can change the ownership, root, and the menu itself. And let's see what happens. It prompts me for my password. I enter the password and you notice something strange happened over here. I actually ended up with an X and that lock over here. Let's go ahead and see if we can pull up that last file in the menu. Let's see what happened. So nothing changed on the permissions. We didn't ask it to, but we do see that the owner changed from WA to root. That's the way that you change the ownership. If you want to change the ownership back, we can certainly do that. We can probably just change the ownership back to WA since we were in the elevated permissions. And so again, it comes up and it says you have to have elevated permissions to do this. Where's that super user do? So sudo comes in. I change the WA, enter it. It doesn't prompt me for my password this time because I've already entered it. And if we take a look, the owner has changed from root back to WA. And that's all there is for changing permissions and changing ownership.